welcome back to One Up Club. I'm going to go through a bit of a project I've been working on for the past few months, and hopefully today it's going to come to some fruition. It's an arcade machine. I don't have the arcade machine up here in my little retro office space up here. It's down in the kitchen, so I'll give you a bit of a tour of that in a minute. It's a modern arcade machine with a Pandora's box in. I've had it for a few years now, but recently I've been trying to basically upgrade it. I want to have some better games on. The Pandora's box doesn't necessarily play the games that well, get a bit of screen tearing and stuff. So I'm trying to enhance the experience there, make something in the centre of the house that's got a bit more versatility, more games, maybe some different systems on. So today I'm just going to go through the process of what I've been doing so far. And hopefully by the end of this video we'll have something working with the upgraded system in place. Might not be completely finished, but hopefully we'll get something working by the end of this video. So here in the corner of my kitchen is my arcade machine. We have a closer look. It's not an old arcade machine, it's a new build arcade machine. I'm really pleased with the build, I'll be honest with you. It's I bought it on eBay a few years ago. It was supplied with a Pandora's Box 5. It didn't actually say on the advert. It kind of implied it would come with some sort of games on, but I'm guessing to try and avoid litigation, they don't really try and sell something with lots of games built into it. It's got quite a nice, you can see the, what do they call it? The lit up sort of top part there. I can't remember what they're calling that now. It's the, I can't think of the name for it. It's got sort of speakers built in just underneath there. So stereo speakers. It's a VGA sort of flat screen monitor in there, LCD monitor. I think it's a Dell model actually. We look inside. Buttons lit up. I'm not 100% happy with these buttons, to be honest with you. I mean, these are the domed buttons and the lit up. I think I prefer to swap them for the more sort of, I think the US style sort of, these are more the kind of concave buttons, are more the ones that I remember from the arcades I used to go to. You might be familiar with Pandora's box, but we've got about 800 and odd games on there. In fact, I've got this little bit of paper in here just to remind me where some of my favourite games are, so you can have a quick look and see what some of my favourite games are on there. So yeah, I'm really pleased with the build quality. Nice rubber sort of floor down there. I mean, it's not as big as an original arcade cabinet, but it's a nice size for my kitchen here. Sound quality, everything's really good. We're going to a game. Let's go to one of my favourites, Wonder Boy. So yeah, I don't know if there's a better way to scroll through. I haven't messed about with it. I know you can take games off the list and put games onto the list, but you can't. I haven't found different. Well, you might be able to put them in different orders, but I haven't found a really good way to sort these. So I just tend to find the games I like and just write them down.
Get ready.
So this is Wonder Boy. This is one of my favourite games. Love this game. Played this a lot in the arcades back in the day. I'm not going to be able to play it properly because I'm holding my camera here, but get a bit of an idea of the game here. So with it being this Pandora's box, we do get a little bit of sort of screen tearing. So obviously that's something I want to try and sort of address with this. So there, but it works nice anyway. I think that's the beauty of the Pandora's box, really, just works nicely. Straight out of the box, everything's sort of working. I'll show you the inside in a minute. If you're not familiar with how the Pandora's box works, it might be interesting just to have a look inside. So one of the problems I have with this as well is that it doesn't have all the games I wanted on it. I quite like Rastan, that's not on this list. I quite like Pac-Land, Hypersport. So there's a few games which are key games which I've played in my life that aren't actually on this. I have looked into actually adding games onto the Pandora's box. It seemingly has just a little USB stick attached to it with all the games built into it, but somehow that is tied into some sort of index file inside. So whatever you do, I've seen videos, people trying to add games onto it, and it just hasn't really worked. So that's one of the problems that I wanted to try and address here. So let's have a look inside. So inside, so we've got the actual Pandora's box there. You can see the VGA coming out, and there's that little USB stick that's just sticking in the top there. So it's VGA graphics. Pandora's box 5. I think there's 2 types of 5. There's one that's like for an arcade cabinet, one that's more for a home sort of system. This one only has VGA out. There's no HDMI out on this. So it's wired up, powered by this sort of PC type power supply inside here, and we can see all the wiring inside. I mean, it's quite nicely done. See the wiring underneath the for the buttons and everything like that. So it is wired up with what we call a jammer harness to the Pandora's Box 5. So these are sort of standard power controller outs for the actual sort of for the sort of arcade cabinet. So this all sort of plugs in sort of nicely. So what I have got, actually, I'll show you on the other video what I've actually got. But it's nice and roomy here. There's loads of space in the bottom here. The power is supplied by just a standard sort of kettle lead sort of power, which plugs in there, and then you can't see in there, breaks out into the and plugs into there as well. So I've got the sockets. Should be able to power what I need to inside here. But as you can see, it's quite a nice build quality. You can see the back of the Dell monitor. Can you see the Dell there? Yeah, so it's a Dell monitor, just a sort of a square Dell monitor that just fits in quite nicely. So hopefully I'm going to be able to adapt this cabinet, attaching something to this jammer harness, and hopefully improve the amount of games I've got to play on it, and mean that I can do more with this machine. The problem is I've got this arcade machine, looks nice, works perfectly fine. It's in the centre of the house, so I can play arcade games, but it's missing some of the key games that I want to play, specifically Rastan. Love playing that game back in the arcades in the day. Hypersports is a good little multiplayer game. It's got track and field on, but Hypersports is like the sequel to that, with some different games, so it's nice to be able to play both on an actual arcade machine. There's no real, you can play it on a controller or a joypad, but it's just not quite the same as playing on an arcade machine with the solid buttons that you can really smash. Pac-Land was one of my favourites as well. Again, it's not got that game on here. And then also we've got that screen tearing issue, where in Wonder Boy we're seeing the sort of the screen sort of not quite, we've seen that tearing. It's not updating the whole screen at the same time. So the solutions that I looked at, originally I was just thinking, well, I'll just get a new Pandora's box. The problem with that is it's a bit of a minefield buying them online. There's a lot of modern versions, and I don't think they all have VGA out. So I wasn't 100% sure it'd just be a plug and play sort of job. A lot of the ones you see advertised have like modern 3D games on, like Tekken and stuff, so they might work perfectly fine, but I just wasn't sure whether they'd be fully compatible with this as it was. I didn't want to have to start doing any rewiring or replacing the monitor or anything. I had a bit of success with it. I got a laptop, I got a jammer adapter, USB adapter, set up MAME on the laptop under Windows, works fine, works great with the controls and everything like that. The only problem is choosing games. You have to scroll. You need a keyboard really, or a mouse, just to sort of pick games. So you need some sort of front end on here that's going to work just seamlessly, so I can just power it up. I don't have to mess about with a keyboard or anything. Just go straight up into the games, and I can use the joysticks to select the games. I think you can get Emulation Station working on Windows, but I don't really have a suitable Windows PC for that. A Raspberry Pi running RetroPie, which is an Emulation Station front end. I tried that. The problem with the Raspberry Pi is it doesn't have VGA out. So what I did was I bought a VGA adapter for it, but I just couldn't get that to work. So I kind of hit a bit of a brick wall with that. I don't know if the VGA adapter doesn't work, whether there's some drives I need, some incompatibility, or there's something not quite working there. So I ended up hitting a bit of a brick wall. So the solution I've kind of going to try today, that I've been working on for like the past few days, is getting an old PC running Ubuntu, which is a type of Linux operating system, and then running an emulation station as a front end to RetroArch with all the emulators running in the background. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, by the end of this video we can get that solution up and working. So here's the jammer to USB adapter that I've got. It comes with a nice sort of USB adapter, so it can plug straight into any computer really. So this was the first thing I got. Like, this is what I got working on MAME. It's got audio input as well, because then the audio goes through the jammer connection and into the sort of speakers. So it's got a little volume control on it as well, this the jammer adapter. So but I will actually be using that in today's project. I tried with the Raspberry Pi. I've got a Raspberry Pi, so opening up, Raspberry Pi 3 version 1.2. I mean, this is quite a nice little box. I always have this sort of setup with RetroPie on, huge, thousands of games and stuff, and I have it set up on my main TV here with HDMI, and it's nice just to be able to pick up and just play. I do find there's a bit of input lag on it, particularly when you're playing games like Super Mario Brothers, where you've got to be really precise with your timing of your jumps and things like that. It's really sort of noticeable, and I don't know if that's the telly, which I'm led to believe it might be the telly. But anyway, it's nice to just play the odd arcade game and stuff on there. I can even emulate sort of PlayStation quite alright, it's not too bad, sort of, anything up to sort of PlayStation sort of thing. Just works. Just RetroPie, anybody who's tried using it, just works. Shove your ROM straight on, works fine. This is the it's a passive VGA 666, and this is slots onto the Raspberry Pi with the VGA port. I couldn't get this working. I'm not sure why. Maybe I plugged it in the wrong way. I think I had it in the right way. I'm pretty sure I checked that, but maybe I had plugged it in the wrong way and blew something on it, perhaps. So there was something wrong. I couldn't get it working. I didn't pursue it too much because it just wasn't working for me. I didn't really have many ways to sort of test this. So yeah, so they're the solutions that haven't worked for me. So I picked up these two Dell Optiplex 755s. They're dual core. Both had about 2 GB of RAM in them. Hard drives removed. I think they've been used in sort of point of sale systems before, because they came with a couple of TM88 thermal till printers. But anyway, so I've got these two machines. They're a bit dirty. I cleaned them both up a bit, and I've had them sat in my loft for ages, waiting for a project. So I was thinking about getting rid of them. Dismantled them a bit, cleaned them up a bit again, and decided maybe actually I could use one of these to actually get my arcade machine working. So I stripped the RAM out of one of them and put it into the other one, so it's got more RAM in, so it's up to 3.5 gigabyte RAM now, so it runs a bit quicker. I installed Ubuntu. So I tried installing RetroArch, which is the sort of underlying sort of front end, which works quite nicely if you're happy to sort of load your cores manually, load your ROMs manually, and it works fine. But for the arcade machine, I need something that's a bit more a better front end, something that's just a bit easier to navigate with the arcade sticks. So I tried installing the emulation station. I had quite a lot of difficulty getting emulation station working. So I actually discovered you can install the RetroPie package, which basically has all the cores, everything's all just sort of really nicely configured. You can actually install it on Ubuntu as well. So that was the next stage. I installed RetroPie on it. Again, just having a bit of trouble getting it to work straight away. It kept coming up with a problem with the ES systems file, and in the end I actually got it working by deleting the ES systems file, and now it works fine. I copied my ROMs across from my Raspberry Pi over the network, so I've got all my ROMs in place. Everything's sort of up and running on my desktop. I've got it all up and running here, working fine. So the question is, if I transfer this downstairs, is it going to recognise the jammer and all the different inputs, all the buttons and everything? Is it going to recognise that automatically? Is it going to take any configuration? Is it going to work straight out to the box? So that, yeah, these are the sort of questions. These are things that I've got a feeling that might be a bit of a hiccup on here, but hopefully I can just plug my Optiplex in, plug the jammer in, plug everything in together, and then the only sort of questions I'm going to have then is about how to sort of power it up, because obviously it's got soft power on this computer. So there's no switch on the arcade machine, so if I switch it on at the mains, this won't come on immediately. I need to press the button on the front of the Optiplex. So I'm going to either work out a way to do that or a way to put soft power on the outside, but that's probably going to be a project for another day. But today, if I can just get it to work with the jammer harness, output to the screen, then that would be a result for me today, and then I can maybe fine tune this project at a later date. So here we are, I've got everything connected up. There is actually a slot at the front of the arcade machine. As you can see, the machine's the PC is just poking out at the minute. Obviously I'll try and tidy everything up, but that's for coin operation. I've got the jammer harness, I've pulled it out of the Pandora's box and I've connected it up to there. USB down to the back of the PC down there. Pulled the power cable that was plugged into there and plugged that into there, so it's all using the same kettle lead power, which kind of splits off. One goes to the monitor and one goes to the PC, or this power supply in the first place. And then I've taken the it's just a jack for the sound, which goes from the PC to the thing. So I've booted it up and we've come up with this screen. So I might have to mess about with the aspect ratio a bit to get it working properly, but hopefully it'll fit in nicely. So we're on to Ubuntu. Obviously I need to get it to automatically run emulation station if I'm going to get this to work. So I'm hoping when I start this up, RetroPie now, it will automatically detect the controller. So there, it's detected the controller. Right, I'm just going to turn off my torch. Right, let's see what happens when I try to configure this. So let's hold the button. That's it. So gamepad 1 up, down, left, right. Now this doesn't look right because it's only got A and B. Start, select. Page up, page down. Right, so I've got it working to some degree anyway. Let's just see if it'll actually work in a game, because I was having problems with it not working in certain games. So go back to main. Let's try 1942. Let's see what. Oh, wrong button. That button there. So it's definitely launching the game. At least I've got some of the buttons working, so I should be able to play some games. I didn't like that game. Let's start that one. Let's try it. So that's it. I've powered it on. So I managed to get the buttons working. I'm having the same issue that they don't actually work in the game. I was having that problem when I was testing it upstairs with controllers. So I'm guessing I've got some sort of driver issue here. So that's something I need to look at. Also having a problem with the sound, and I think I realised what the issue is, what mistake I've made here. Because I've plugged the power directly, I bypassed the 80s power supply here, the PC power supply, and plugged it straight into the computer there. There's actually no power getting to the jammer card anymore, so I'm going to have to power that as well as the PC down there as well, I think, to try and get some volume out of it. the sound you can hear now, if you can hear that, it's just coming out of the actual PC. The PC's got a little built-in speaker. So we've had some success. Obviously got it working on here. Can actually play this with the keyboard. I can't play it with the controllers, but so this is going to be impossible to play. But you can see, it's working quite nicely there. And you don't get any of this sort of screen tearing and stuff. So I'm going to have a bit of a mess about with this and then come back to it. So I finally got this working. A couple of days since I was last recording, but I've done quite a lot, and I'll talk you through what I've done in a bit. But I basically had a bad install of RetroPie, so I've had to reinstall it. So as you can see now, I've actually got multiple systems set up on my arcade machine, which is obviously an improvement. I've got most of these systems are working fine. I'm a little bit of trouble with some of the Nintendo and N64, but there aren't enough buttons really to play N64 games on here. But I can certainly play, say, your Master System, Mega Drive games on here. So if I click a game, loads up quite nicely. Plenty of buttons for sort of Mega Drive type games and those sort of things, so we can just press sort of start. So this is one thing I couldn't do before, was play console games on here, so I've got that working. Probably a poor choice of game really, because obviously Afterburner you can play on the arcade as well. So I've tested it a bit with the sort of SNES games. NES games works really nicely, a lot better than the actual Raspberry Pi. When I'm playing Raspberry Pi, I get that input lag, which I'm just not getting on this machine. So it's a bit quicker, a bit more processing power, a bit more RAM, just emulates better really. Going back to the the arcade emulation, if I go into there, like some of the games I wanted to play, like Rastan, see if that's working. Yeah, there we go, got Rastan working. So that's clearly an improvement. And I think played a bit of, I can't play this properly because I've only got one hand. Playing this and playing a few other games, I think this is looks better than it did, even with the Pandora's box. Like I say, Pandora's box, it's a nice little, just come out of there, nice little solution, but certainly the Pandora's Box 5 is not that powerful really, and I don't think it plays these games. You get quite a lot of screen tearing. Definitely looks a lot better. One problem I'm having with this though is that the ROMs that I have, if you know anything about sort of MAME and arcade emulators, you'll know that some of the ROMs are just slightly different for different emulation systems. The emulator that runs on RetroPie, which is what I've got running here, is usually MAME for all, and all my games will work with RetroPie, all this list of games. With MAME for all, sorry, but MAME for all doesn't work on Windows x86 based computers. So what I'm finding is some games will work on that. Other games, like say Wonder Boy, it won't work. I'm having to, when you start the game, you can actually go into menus and select a different emulator. So I've found, let's go into that quick enough. I don't know if I press the button fast enough. Oh, no, it's gone into the game. I found that FB Neo, which is a different emulator, works on the games that don't work with the MAME 2003, which is kind of the default emulator if you're not using MAME for all. So anyway, so I've kind of got around that, but it's a bit of a pain sometimes just having to switch emulators. I could set it by game, but it's more of a problem with my ROMs than the actual system really. So I suppose if you're setting up something similar, just making sure you get the right ROMs for the right emulator. So a few things I want to do. One thing I haven't managed to do is get the second controller configured. I can't get this one to work at all. Say I can't get it to work, so it seems to be working. Why is it suddenly working? It isn't working in games. I have got some messing about with that to try and get that working in games. So I'm going to leave that for today for this video, but it's probably going to involve editing some of the CFG files. The other things I need to do I need to secure this Dell Optiplex. I quite like having it at the front here because it means that I can plug in a keyboard mouse if I want to. I can just pop off this little coin up sort of front. So hopefully I can just mount it there, a couple of screws through into the base or some sort of blocks just to secure it where it is. I can just pop that open and I can potentially then plug in a couple of more game pads and actually have more than two players on some of the games. You know, like Micro Machines on Mega Drive or something. So it'd be a nice little central party piece with this unit. Another thing I need to do is the jammer harness is still sort of flapping about, the little jammer board that I use. So I'm just need to secure that to something just to stop it shorting out on anything. It's kind of hanging a bit precariously at the moment. I need to run the power for the Optiplex through, so there are some holes that I could probably run the power through, or I just need to drill a little hole or something, just find a way to bring it through. So that's another job that needs doing. And oh yeah, the other job, the one final job that I need to do is that when I set up this Optiplex, it's actually got a seems to be a faulty hard drive. I think it's an old hard drive that was in an old sort of TV unit. So I'm just going to need to get a new Serial ATA hard drive and just reset everything up again. I've got the guidance. I can go through easily how to set it up now, and it wouldn't take me too long to set it up again. So that's something I just need to do, is get a new hard drive. Because one problem that causes is that when it boots up, it should go straight into emulation station, but because it comes up with an error on the hard drive, I have to close that, and it doesn't. So I need a mouse or a keyboard just to get past that error. So hopefully I'll get that fixed. But otherwise, I'm pretty pleased with what I've done here. So there we go. I've got this project to a sort of a stage where I want it to be really now. As we can see, really, you know, Pandora's boxes, you know, they're nice and plug and play devices, work really nicely. Got all the games all sort of working, but we can get a lot more out of it if we install a computer-based sort of system in there. I mean, a Raspberry Pi would have been great, you know, multi-arcade emulation and multi-system emulation, but it just works better with I mean, my computer, like I say, it's a dual-core PC from, you know, probably well over 10 years old, but still works really nicely, emulates all those systems really nicely that I want. I'll just quickly talk through what I actually did to get it up and running, because it wasn't actually that complicated. It was just working out the stages, because originally I'd installed a version of Emulation Station, then tried to install a RetroPie over the top, which really didn't work. It didn't like that. That was a lot of the configuration problems. So what I did was a clean installation of Ubuntu. I'll put some links. You can download Ubuntu installation. You can just burn it to a disk or to a USB drive and then install it on any computer. You can actually install it side by side with Windows if you want, or you can just install it as a standalone. Then I followed the installation for RetroPie guide for Ubuntu, the installation for RetroPie. So that's a series of commands on a web page. You just can copy them off the web page, and sets up really, perfectly well. Then you need to get some ROMs, which obviously I can't tell you where to get, but you know, obviously they are available, and then copy the ROMs into the relevant directories for the which appear in like the RetroPie folder on Ubuntu. I had to mess about a bit with the different MAME emulators, and I ended up using the FB Neo to get certain games were working, and the other games will work under MAME 2003. What have I got left to do with it? Well, I need to get that second controller working, because it's not really the upgrade I want unless I can play two-player games like Hypersports and things. It's not really much fun playing single player, so I'll have a bit of a mess about with the configuration file, see if I can get that working. I've found a few guides online. I think I can do it. I need to secure the jammer and the Dell inside, so there's a bit of work to do inside the cabinet just to make sure everything's secured nicely in there. I need a new hard drive for that Dell, so I'm going to have to get a new Serial ATA hard drive. I think I'll go with Serial ATA rather than USB, because it's only got I think USB 2, which is a bit slow for loading things on. So if I get a Serial ATA hard drive, it'll be quicker. And I need to work out how to push the power button, because at the minute I have to actually open the front to actually press the power button. So thanks for watching One Up Club today, and obviously like and subscribe if you want to see more of this type of content.